What up, YouTube? Here with the post-fight review video for Conor Benn versus Chris Van Heerden. Y'all already know the results of this fight. If y'all tapping into this video, y'all probably already watched the fight or y'all trying to catch up on the results. So I'm going to give y'all the results from the get-go of this video. Conor Benn was able to score a second-round knockout win over Chris Van Heerden to improve his record to 21-0. He remains undefeated, and he retained his WBA Intercontinental Welterweight title. I might as well throw that made-up-ass belt that was on the line and mention that in the video because, these sanctioning bodies like to, throw the belts on the recognizable names in the sport for economical reasons. We already know the politics of this shit. And Conor Benn is the welterweight out of England right now, the most recognizable. He's undefeated, young, second generation star on the come up. But we all know who the legit WBA welterweight champion is. There was a new WBA welterweight champion crowned that same night. Conor Benn defeated Chris Van Heerden, and the legit champion of the WBA is the unified majority title holder at 147. That's Errol Spence, and I'm sure Conor Benn, who's making some noise right now at 147, would like to challenge for any of the legit world titles at welterweight. And that's two straight knockout wins for Conor Benn versus two seasoned vets that he got in there for his last two fights. I mean, he got Chris Van Heerden out of there in 2 rounds. He knocked out Chris Algieri and what could have been 2021's candidate for knockout of the year. And Chris Van Heerden, a seasoned vet, like I said, southpaw. He got in there with the likes of Jerome Boots Ennis. That fight obviously would have went towards Boots' way because I think he's got the brightest future when it comes to 147. But unfortunately, that fight with Van Heerden and Boots Ennis ended in a no contest in the first round. And Errol Spence, I mentioned him earlier in this video, holds a win over Chris Van Heerden as well, and he's got a prior loss to some Slovak fighter way back when, earlier in his career. So Conor Benn becomes the third man to defeat Chris Van Heerden, and like I said, Van Heerden in the first round, to give y'all the summary of this fight, Conor Benn, he's an aggressive fighter. He likes to get in there and engage as soon as the bell rings, and he came out blazing with fury of punches from the sound of the bell. But Van Heerden, being the veteran that he is, he reacted well. Obviously, not to power punches that was connecting on the side of Conor Benn, but overall, I thought he remained calm and was countering some attacks here and there. But the first round definitely went to Conor Benn. He pursued the action, and he controlled the action in the ring, and he landed the more effective punches. And the second round, he landed like a straight right, then he followed it up with combos of punches while he had Van Heerden against the ropes, and Van Heerden dropped, couldn't answer the 10 count, and that called a halt to the bout. And that's how Conor Benn won the fight. Ever since the Granados fight, where he showed flaws in the game, they went the distance in that fight. Benn and Granados, ever since that fight, I think he's got some, fuel to his flame to, want to, prove himself to the world that, he belongs in the mix for, the top spot at the welterweights, and he's taking on higher quality opponents now, which is a good thing. It's no point in him, stepping down the ladder. I think he should still fight, guys that are recognizable at 147, and there's plenty of guys that he could get in there to gain some more experience with higher quality opponents. In the post-fight interview, Amir Khan came to the ring, and the interviewer, along with Eddie Hearns, they were talking about Conor Benn's future opponents, and Amir Khan was thrown in the mix. Obviously, Amir Khan coming off that loss versus Kell Brook, there's talks about him retiring, which I believe he should, retire. He's gave enough to the sport. He's accomplished a lot in the sport. He's fought everybody he can. Guys bigger than him, he's even fought. I don't think he's got nothing else to prove. I think, he doesn't need to play that gatekeeper position anymore in the sport. I think, he should, either be a trainer, train up and coming guys, coming onto the English boxing scene, or, he's got a great mind when it comes to the sport of boxing, get into, analyticals and commentating and shit like that. But I can't, pitch an idea to the next man. He knows what's best for him, but I think, that's the road he should be taking. But hey, who am I though, right? If I was, in Amir Khan's camp, if I were his friend or something like that, I would definitely not suggest him to be Conor Benn's next opponent, especially the way Conor Benn's been looking in his last 2 fights ever since the Granados fight. I think the more better opponent for Conor Benn is Kell Brook, who's coming fresh off that win versus Amir Khan. I think Kell Brook, he's a little more fresher than Amir Khan is, and he proved that when he got in there with Amir Khan. I think, that would be a huge local fight over there in England. Kell Brook, obviously former world champion. And Conor Benn, I'm pretty sure that he'd like to fill in that shoe as that next top welterweight coming out of England. Before him it was Kell Brook. He was a former IBF welterweight champion, and then before that it was Amir Khan. Then before that it was Ricky Hatton, and Conor Benn is following those footsteps of potentially becoming a great welterweight talent coming out of England. And, what better way to do that by getting in there with, someone who was in your shoes before you, and defeating Kell Brook, which he most likely would if they were to get in the ring. I think, that would be a perfect way for him to, step up into, I would say, in the mix of, possibly, becoming world champion at 147. Obviously, with the 2 kingpins at 147 right now, it's kind of very difficult to win any world titles right now. But, this would solidify his position as definitely being, one of the top contenders at 147. So, yeah, I think Kell Brook would be the wiser choice and the higher quality opponent for Conor Benn's next fight. There's talks of him possibly getting in there with another veteran, Mikey Garcia, who's coming off from back-to-back losses. Obviously, he had that, upset loss in his comeback fight versus Sandor Martin in a catchweight. There's talks about him getting in there with Conor Benn. And there's also talks about him getting in there with Adrian Broner. That's been rumored for some time now. And AB, a focused, in the mode AB is dangerous for anybody, I say, at 140 and at 147. I think that's more, Mikey Garcia and Adrian Broner is more of a riskier fight than definitely a Amir Khan at this point, and a Kell Brook. I think the safer bet would be to, have a local fight. It would draw more money definitely over there in England with 2, homegrown talent getting in there. 2 well-recognizable homegrown talent having a show in England. But, if he's really trying to step up in competition, I think, Adrian Broner, is a dangerous opponent for him. If AB is actually focused in his mind and everything about him is concentrated on the fight, I think that's definitely a riskier fight. Same for the Mikey Garcia fight, even though, he's coming off that upset loss versus Martin. But, these are all the potential opponents next for the second generation rising prospect in Conor Benn. And yeah, there's also talks about him possibly getting in there with Danny Garcia. I don't know if, Matchroom and Eddie Hearns is going to work with Al Heyman and PBC to possibly make that matchup. But yeah, that does it for this review video. Y'all let me know what y'all thoughts are in the comments, what y'all would like to see next out of Conor Benn. Comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Y'all already know. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'm out. Peace.